Welcome back to another episode of KBB Online. Today we're going to shed some light on how to self-manage your nest egg and show you how to attract the right kind of PR for your business. But first, news you can use. Now, what about this? An 89-year-old American grandma is proving that you're never too old to become an entrepreneur as she sources crowdfunding capital to start a Swiss new business venture. Pearl Macon, or Grandma Pearl, as she's more commonly known, reckons plain walking sticks are so old-fashioned and has launched a campaign on crowdfunding site Kickstarter to raise $3,500 to roll out her range of flower-decorated happy canes. Looks like it'll be a success. 96% of the target has been reached, and she's going to sell them on Etsy for $60. So if you've been thinking about taking the plunge and starting your own business, perhaps take some entrepreneurial tips from Grandma. Well, on the Kochie's Business Builders website, we have an article on tips for getting started, so take a look if you've got the same idea. Now, the Tax Office has just announced it's expecting the number of applications for self-managed superannuation funds to reach a record 500,000 by the end of June this year, with over 1,000 submitted every week. It's the fastest growing sector in the national superannuation market. But why are so many people signing up? And how do you know if it's right for you? Well, to clear up any confusion, KBB caught up with the so-called godmother of self-managed super funds and the founder and chief executive of the SMSF Association of Australia, Andrea Slattery.
Thanks for joining us, Andrea. So first of all, what is a self-managed super fund?
A self-managed super fund is a small fund. It's actually a trust as part of superannuation where you can have up to 4 members. Each of those members has to be trustees. There are a couple of other logistical and legal details, but in effect it's a fund where you hold your monies in it and you work as a trustee to make decisions about the benefit in retirement of all of the members of the fund.
And how do they differ from traditional pooled super funds?
The difference is really the way in which the money's held and the fact that small funds, it's really all about your money. All decisions are made about a member's money and the benefit of that in retirement. In the pooled environment, it's made about the whole group of the pool, and each member actually benefits through those decisions.
Is there a minimum value that you need to have?
If it is an upper echelon balance normally, $250,000 was what we recommended for somebody getting closer to pension. But in actual fact, the balance of your portfolio or the balance of your fund is not what we would call a primary issue. It's one of those things that needs to be taken into account along with what you can contribute in the future, what your circumstances are now, where you are in the cycle. So the Cooper review actually had a finding that the break-even point was probably closer to $60,000 or $80,000. So we really need to evaluate the balance based on the personal circumstances of the member involved.
So it's not suitable across the board?
It's actually not suitable across the board. That's what it's all about. Australia's got it's actually recognised as having one of the best systems in the world. And one of the beauties of the system is that we have bookends. SMSFs are a bookend at one end, industry funds and default funds are a bookend at the other. And then you have the range in between of the retail funds, the corporate funds and the public sector funds. So it's a fantastic system where you've actually got the opportunity of choosing where you want to be, and you're eligible based on what your circumstances are to be in any one of those areas. But it's really important that you understand that SMSFs is actually the upper echelon end.
And looking at small businesses specifically, what are the rules around bringing the business or assets to inside the super fund?
The majority of people in small business are the ones that are actually within the self-managed sector. There is an exemption for a business real property opportunity, so that people that are actually building their lives through what is actually the largest employer in Australia with 2.5 million small businesses, it allows them the opportunity to save for super as well as growing their business by, if they wish, to have their business real property within the fund, and that allows them to manage the way in which they can save for their own retirement.
And are there any associated tax benefits of doing so for small business owners that might not be available to pooled funds?
No, anecdotally there's a lot of talk at the moment that there are tax advantages for SMSFs, but there are not. The tax advantages for both the APRA regulated sector and the self-managed sector, in fact for all superannuation, are identical. You have the tax breaks for property within the larger funds or the APRA regulated sector, similarly to the small funds, so there is no difference. And I think that's an interesting point in itself, that people need to understand that there is no difference in the tax treatment between the different sectors.
Is it realistic for someone from a non-financial background to set up and manage their own self-managed super fund? And what about the role of financial advisors in all that?
Well, advisors, particularly specialist SMSF advisors, and SPA built a profession and built standards of advice and an accreditation. They're the only one of its kind in the world, actually, and the only one in Australia. That underpins a specialist SMSF advisor and a specialist SMSF auditor. Really, really important that you have a specialist advisor that's part of your fund. You might have a number of them and they might interrelate and network. The issue is not your background and your knowledge. The issue is having a competent advisor that helps you to gain knowledge and provide you with information and education if you require to actually make informed decisions about your future. So it's really a matter of working together on it. So if you've got a non-financial background, that's not an impediment unless you're not interested, as an example.
Andrea, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much, Alex. It's a pleasure.
An ex-business builder set up a fascinating company designed to get Australians home safely. I caught up with the founder, Kayleen Squire, to hear more about what they do. Hello, Kayleen. How are you? Nice to meet you. Now, tell us about Scooter Angels.
We're a drink drive service. We come on little fold-up bikes that go into a bag into the boot of your car so that we can drive you home in your car.
What a fantastic idea. So, if you've had a few too many and you think you're over the limit, the worst thing is getting a cab home and having to come and pick your car up later. This solves it.
Absolutely.
Gee.
That's exactly our aim.
How did you come up with the idea?
We saw it on a TV program in London and thought this would be a great idea for Sydney. So did some inquiries, bought the bikes, and away we went.
With such a novel service, it sounds like it could be the perfect media story, but how do you attract the right kind of PR for your business? I've sent in dynamic duo Melissa and Caroline Scheuer from the PR group to give her a helping hand.
A lot of people have some unrealistic expectations when they come to PR. They think, you know, if I go out there with a story, I've got this great business idea, everyone's going to be interested in it, and you know, if I get one piece of publicity, then that's going to translate into, you know, more stories. But you know, unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. To be successful, you really need to be relevant, be targeted, and also look towards the long term. So consistently go out there, put out stories, you know, communicate with your customers, just to create that buzz, which over time will be building awareness. And it's also about relationship building. PR is all about the power of your relationships. Just like sales, in a sales job, it's all about building relationships with your customers. With PR, very important is to build relationships with journalists, nurturing those relationships and taking them through for the long term.
I guess then the thing for me is I need to know who I should be targeting and how to get to them.
One of the key things that you need to keep in mind is being very targeted with your approach. So when you understand your customers and understand, you know, what publications they're reading or what TV shows they're watching, then that will give you a bit of an understanding of, you know, the media that will be good for you to, you know, build a relationship with and pitch your story to. Once you've identified the media outlet that you wish to approach and the journalist or the producer who you wish to talk to, now you need to work out, what am I going to tell them? Now, a lot of businesses do get a little bit caught up in the sales process, and so they're like, I have a great product, I want to tell the world. Unfortunately, often than not, that is not going to get you media. Media are all concerned about the story and they represent their
readers or their viewers' concerns? What issues are keeping their viewers awake? What issues are they interested in? And that's where researching and understanding what is being talked about in the community is very important. That's where storytelling comes in, and this is where Scooter Angels have a great opportunity to tell your story. Use your customers. Customers are the best champions of your service, and it sounds like that you have some really strong advocates for your service.
Even your partners, that you've got really good relationships with your, with some of the local clubs, and and you were saying you're like their hidden secret as well. I mean, you can even like partner up with them and do like a co-PR initiative. For example, how you're both, how you're keeping the community safe. Bringing in a few different people that can help tell your story for you adds additional strength and weight to your message and provides another angle.
Another thing also is visual with your storytelling. When you are writing a press release or pitching a story, think visually, how is that going to look? Or what other tactics or instruments can you bring to make that story real and compelling? So at Christmas time, for instance, you could get your Scooter Angels dressed up as Santa Claus and have a photo call and accompany that with your story. So there's a lot of creative tactics that you can use to really champion that drink driving message.
Now to answer some of your questions that you keep sending through on Facebook and the website and Twitter, thank you very much for doing that. Kerry from Victoria writes in saying, I know one of the most important things required for any business starting out is a solid business plan, but there are so many different approaches online. I don't know where to begin. Do you have any recommendations for choosing the right one for my business and some help with right here? All right. How to choose one and understand the process of developing a business plan. On the Business Builders website, we've got a couple of stories that will hold your hand and just tell you the key elements that you should be following. In terms of help in writing a business plan, go to your local business enterprise centre. They'll be in the white pages online or in the phone book, wherever. Yeah, many of them are attached to local chambers of commerce or local state small business departments. Now, they're designed purely to help businesses starting up, and they run courses, they run seminars on business plan, even have a program where they will have, if you like, a business plan mentor that they will pay part of the cost of to help you put your plan together. So that's a really good starting point. Business Builders website, business enterprise centres, good luck with the business. Well, that's it for this episode of the show. We will catch you next time.